Does it get any more personal? Does it get any more uncomfortable than the situation between Jeff Jarrett, Karen Jarrett, and Kurt Angle?
You're looking at a guy who's in the best shape of his career. Quite frankly, the best cardio conditioning in the history of professional wrestling. Because you hadn't been in the ring in 6 months.
Well, I've been out a few months, so I don't really know what kind of shape I'm in. But if Jeff Jarrett wants to know what kind of shape I'm in, why doesn't he just ask his wife?
This situation, it's awkward, but it's very real.
Oh, it's real. It's scandalous.
Which makes it uncomfortable.
You know, every time I look into Jeff Jarrett's eyes, I see him taking a gun to my kids. It makes me sick. Messing with me is one thing, but messing with my kids is another thing.
Do you think anybody in this building thinks Kurt Angle has a snowball's chance in hell of beating me? Absolutely not. I mean, he may have some amateur background, some amateur credentials, but he's nothing compared to me. That's right, Kurt, because I'm taking you out once and for all.
No.
Don't worry about what kind of shape you're in, Jeff, because I'm going to have a lot of fun tonight.
Kurt Angle, watch those hips. Boom, snap through. Oh boy. Wow.
And I'm going to have a great time kicking your ass.
And the stipulations are just nuts.
If Kurt Angle wins, he gains custody of the 2 children that he fathered with Karen Jarrett. But if Jeff wins, then Kurt Angle has to walk Karen down the aisle March 3rd on Impact when Jeff and Karen redo their vows.
March 3rd in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Kurt Angle is going to walk that aisle. You're going to have my princess on your arm, and when you step up into that ring, you're going to deliver her. Night shining on. You started this. Now I'm finishing tonight.
They're just out physically right there.
This is the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, presented by Hami Media and the Pro Wrestling Reflection, where we discuss the very best of the best in pro wrestling history.
And what's it gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
The 2 soundest wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation, maybe in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, are right here, right now. Mr. Perfect and the excellence of execution, the Hitman.
WrestleMania weekend isn't complete without the Heartbreak Kid, and he is on his way.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
They think they got the answers. I change the question. You will rest in peace.
Get used to it in Ric Flair. Who you're looking at, the man.
This man! What the
This earth is not your place, no damn skin.
What is going on there, Reflection Knights? What is going on there? The Hamiites, the Vitoites, the PWCites, the leftites, the rightites, the Demites, the Republites, the Ukrainites, the Russianites, all the ites, the alienites, the illegal alienites in Mexico, Trump jumping over the border.
The
From Mexico, the acolytes, the hermaphrodites, every ite in the world. There's just too much. I have to use the Webster's dictionary for all the ites. But if I do that, then it'll be
You just found another way to say your favorite word.
What, hermaphrodites?
Dick.
Dick.
The dictionary.
Jesus Christ. See, already Reflectionites. That's my favorite ites. The Reflectionites, the Magnificent 7, the Elite 8, the Naughty 9, the Terrific 10. You know how the professor rolls. Not this, this perverted, he uses Christ in vain and then kind of uses that as a
You
cover,
just did that.
No, that was you. You're repenting. You're going to repent. But either way, and he's holding. See, that's voodoo right there. He's holding a Christian head. That's why Christian hasn't been on TV on AEW for so long, because
he was just on there with the Tyrannosaurus Rex guy.
That was months ago. That was pre-tape.
It was a week ago. It was promo.
That was pre-tape. That doesn't mean anything. But anyway, neither here nor there. Welcome to the PWR podcast here at Hami Media Group at Podbeam.com, and of course the PWC network at Podbeam.com. What's up, Jimmy T? What's up, Ham Bones? What's up to the Doctor of WrestleNomics, Jeff Lippman? Thank you for always supporting us. And this PWR Pro Wrestling Reflection Edition. Like I said, we always do episodics, we do movies, we do a lot of stuff. But you know what? We haven't done a rivalries in a long ass time. But before I talk about the rivalries edition here on the Pro Wrestling Reflection, I must introduce myself because I'm vain like that, because I gotta stay as young as I can, because the bones are brittle. I have brittle bones, I have arthritis, I have all this stuff. So if I introduce myself in the oh so magnanimous way, in the oh so studious way, in the oh so glorious way, I stay young for another week. And that is your friend of mine, the Professor Chababaku. But I'm not here alone. No. I am here with my brother from another mother, the conservative liberal, the liberal conservative, the man with the iron stomach, the man that can drink tequila, vodka, whiskey, Bud Light, Coors Light, all the ites, and
no Bud Light.
Bush. No Bud Light anymore?
No Bud.
Oh, God. You're like Kid Rock, too? Oh, Jesus Christ.
First of all, you'd have to start drinking it to quit drinking it. I don't drink it because it's fucking urine. And I think it's funny because the people they're catering to...
I haven't even said your name, and you're going here in soliloquy. But anyway, see, this is why I love him. This is my brother from another mother. Whee! Tommy Wonder. And now, let TW go on his rant against Bud Light, against all the political spectrum of Bud Light and what it represents.
I'm going to let the 12 people listening to our show know right now that absolutely 150% Bud Light knew there would be backlash. That's why they did it. Pay attention. Think about it.
You know who Bud Light consulted with, right? You know who Bud Light consulted with.
I'm thinking Big Ray. But
no, it was Eric Bischoff. Controversy creates cash.
Exactly, because there's no such thing as bad press. However, there has been a backlash, and there has been a dent in Bud Light sales, which is their bread and butter for Anheuser-Busch's full umbrella. But the funny thing is they do it because they know both sides are going to respond to it. But my favorite meme of it all, because it all comes back to liberal hypocrisy. It's a meme that you see all the time with that dude from Canada, Aubrey. His name is Aubrey, like my daughter, but they call him Drake. Where he goes, black chick on a pancake bottle? Nah. Fake chick on a Bud Light can? Yeah. So all these people saying that these people are complaining about a stupid can are the same people that complained about Aunt Jemima, what's the other one? Mrs.
Uncle
Buttersworth and Uncle Ben, right? The same people. And the people complaining about Jemima and Mrs. Butterworth and Uncle Ben aren't the people that they want you to think who are complaining about it. You know who was complaining about it? Some white motherfucker with guilt in Connecticut, and it was probably a woman or a male. Not one black person gave a shit about any of those products. Not one person cares about that can.
But controversy creates cash. Nobody was talking about Kid Rock a week ago. They're talking about him now. And the funny thing about it is, they talk about him like they don't care that he's mad about the can. Well, you had to care a little bit because you talked about it on the internet. So just a little bit. You just made yourself look like an idiot and a liar. But the bottom line is they did it on purpose, just like Disney purposely changes the race of cartoon characters and makes movies out of it because they all know it's going to get a reaction. But what do Coke and Disney have in common? Both of them started backpedaling because their sales dipped. And that's the bottom line. They do this virtue signaling stuff for people who aren't even asking for it. The gays didn't want this person on the beer can. Some white motherfucker in Connecticut did. And they put him on there. And now everyone's mad at the gays who had nothing to do with this or the whatever the hell they call that guy. I know he's still a guy who dresses like a woman. And I've heard stuff about him, too. Like, he didn't used to do that. And then his views were going down. And then he did the transformation to get views. But the bottom line is,
I didn't know who she was. I don't care.
It's but all anyway, the work, Professor. Yeah. And every time I see DDP with the shirt, I love it. The real world is faker than professional wrestling. That's the bottom line, because this shit's all done intentionally. And it's all meant to make us bicker among ourselves so that there's other shit. Come on. Was there ever any more heat lately on people than Trump or Biden? No. Now all of a sudden we're talking about a beer can instead. It's by design. They're all in it together.
It is apropos, this white on white violence that goes on social media is really, it's a monstrosity to the common sense folks. It's a monstrosity because the white on white violence on social media, it's just funny to me. I laugh at it, but it neither here nor there.
I wouldn't even call it white on white. I'd call it moron on moron, because it's like a fishing pole's thrown out there and both sides grab the hook. That's what you don't ever see me complain about it. I'll make a fucking joke. I like my joke. I said, Bud Lights. Drink these beers until the object on the can becomes attractive.
You told the line, but you have the common sense value. You're not the extreme left.
I'm not going to get mad at my friends and family for getting mad about a beer can one way or the other. I do have a lot of acquaintances on my Facebook who are absolute clowns. And make statements that, why don't you just call yourself a parrot? Because all you're doing is repeating what your little masters and puppet string pullers tell you to do. And I want to laugh at them. But I know once I write something, I'm going to get caught in a shithole that I got to destroy multiple people because they're all the same. Because most of them are people who I was wrestling with in my 20s who are now in their 40s and they still think Vince is going to call them and they don't have a job and they live with their parents still. It's pathetic. They want free shit so they can chase their dream.
It's all about the game and how you play it.
Right.
That's a song right there, but neither here nor there. But
I
now
call them Cheeto Dick. Because they got Cheeto fingers and then they touch their dick and now they got Cheeto Dick.
I'll take your word for it. But with that being said, welcome to the PWR podcast and welcome to the Greatest Rivalries edition. So TW, the reason that we're doing this Greatest Rivalries edition is
because you shot down the Sheep Herders one.
I shot down the Sheep Herders one because I think we did one, but neither here nor there. But you know what? We'll do a Sheep Herders movies edition with the Family Matters episode. You remember that one?
I didn't even know that happened. So yes.
Yes, it did. So we'll do that on another time. See, the professor always is in the laboratory thinking about future shows, but neither here nor there. But we haven't done a Greatest Rivalries edition here on the PWR podcast in such a long time, and he is holding the Kurt Angle action figure. That's an ugly head. I don't know what they did with Kurt Angle there.
This is my only Kurt Angle figure, and I hate it.
Hold that up for a second. The audio reflection, as you're not seeing this, I'm seeing this. But look at that head, TW. That looks like that's a 50-year-old doing all that shit. They put the 50-year-old scanning on him. It just looks older. It does not look like 2000 or whatever.
Right.
It really looks older. That's just my humble opinion. But anyway. We are doing a great
with his hair. He's got the hair. He's got like the Captain America singlet. That's what.
You got to go back to the 2001. Yeah.
That's right when they made it.
Now let me get into my soliloquy. We haven't done a rivalries edition in a long time, so I said, let me pick a rivalry that's not only recent for the IWC, YWC, PWC pundits, but a rivalry that, let's say, blurred the lines. So it was apropos, Reflectionites. It was apropos to the Magnificent Seven that I picked one of these rivalries that blurred the lines of reality and went into the wrestling ring. And in my humble opinion, TW, and you can retort back, I call it a raving success for two reasons. One, they didn't kill each other.
I'm glad that was your number one, because that's my number
one. And two, no matter what, even though we can understand management hearsay, there was multiple matches, so it drew money. So what say you, TW, about this particular rivalry between Double J, Jeff Jarrett, that's J-double-F, J-A-R-R-E-double-T, and of course, the Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle. And we are focusing, Reflectionites, on 2011 specifically. So what say you, TW, about this rivalry here? Because again, like I said, it blurs the lines. So in the annals of professional, not annals, that is a word. I know this much. In the annals of professional wrestling, there is that code, TW. You talked about the code. There's always a code. So that's why I said the reason that this rivalry works, even though it blurred the lines, they didn't kill each other. But go ahead, TW. I don't want to
two things, right? Because Angle is an employee and Jarrett is basically booking and running this company, right?
Give or take on the logistics. He was founder.
Angle to see the light of day. It tells you that unlike The Miz, Kurt Angle or Jeff Jarrett has massive balls to even ask Kurt to do this angle, right? Or whoever did it. And Jarrett being on board, if it wasn't his idea and someone said, we got to do this, balls of steel. And two, if you ever doubt that Kurt Angle is a professional in a world of supposed professionals, it's here. I will say this, in the three matches that we watched, I felt like I was watching a different Kurt Angle. I felt like his charisma wasn't there, and almost, not that he was phoning it in, but almost that he felt uncomfortable. Like, he didn't talk much. It was like he'd come to the ring and he just wrestled. But I didn't see many potatoes. I saw him taking care of him on suplexes that he could have killed him. I do want to say that I didn't realize until these three matches, he's absolutely psychopath when it comes to doing moonsaults. And you can almost tell when he's going to miss because he doesn't even bother to look where the guy is when he does the moonsault. There was no way he was ever hitting Angle in that cage. And Angle still, or not Angle, Jarrett. And Jarrett, I don't know if you caught it, he rolled over to try to save Kurt Angle's life, man. Like, he sacrificed himself so that Kurt had something to land on, and he still was too far away. And I just thought, wow. But I got to say this before we get too crazy. The hats off to him, because I remember this in 2011. I was very put off by it. I was like, this is, remember I quoted Macho Man before where he said to somebody, I think it was Paige, he said, did an angle with my wife before. She ain't my wife no more, right? He's basically blaming wrestling for why they got divorced. Right. So I've always had a bad taste when people do stuff like this. Not the stuff with like Austin and Pillman where no one's stealing wives. I like that stuff, where it looks like you're coming to their house. Gargano and the basketball short guy just did it.
Grayson Waller.
I like that stuff. But I don't like, like as a kid, I didn't mind the Cheryl Roberts, Jake Roberts, Rick Rude deal because I thought it was real. I just thought, dude, he's trying to take his girl, right? But he didn't take her. These angles where people take them. But what I need to say is that's the beauty of this, because even as a guy who at the time was wrestling again, it left a bad taste in my mouth. And I think I met Kurt Angle not long after that is when I met him. It was either in 2013 or it might have been just before all this. I don't know. But he came to a Border City show, and that's where I met him. Anyways, I have since heard that Angle and his wife were separated before Jarrett and her hooked up. It's still awkward as shit, but it wasn't she left him for Jeff Jarrett. That's the impression I had, and that's when I thought, oh, you're playing Russian roulette getting in a ring with that dude, because you never know. What's caused the thing that guy has snapped all these years of our lives? Some dude snapped because his wife was cheating on him or whatever. Those are the ones that make the news, right? When he wipes out the wife and 3 kids and then himself.
Right. The love triangles make it weird. The love triangles make it so awkward, as TW so eloquently put it. So let me try to see if I can step back a little bit, put logistics-wise. The first time I ever saw Karen Angle / Karen Jarrett Reflectionites was around 2001 when Kurt Angle won the title against Steve Austin in Pittsburgh on a pay-per-view. The first time I ever saw her because she was celebrating. She wore the Angle stuff. Fast forward to when Kurt Angle goes to TNA in 2006. Now, storyline-wise, Reflectionites and TW, if you remember this, Jarrett was brought in Kurt Angle as a great free agent signing because, like he is the founder, the president, whatever the case may be. But Jarrett wanted to step back a little bit. He wanted to take care of the behind-the-scenes operations of TNA. And I think he said that he said on TV that Kurt Angle was the guy that carried the torch, carried the mantle, carried the flag for TNA. Good pick anyway, because Kurt Angle can't carry the load, and he had great matches in TNA. And I know you've always said on
he's probably the reason. I don't know now with the sale, but if there was ever going to be a hard push to acquire TNA's library, it's because of Kurt Angle, right? Like, because he did stuff after WWE there. The rest of these guys did it before. It's not as important, right? But they still use it with their agreement. But to own it and be able to make a career spanning DVD or show or whatever with Angle and use all of it.
He's got banger matches. Yeah, he's got banger matches in TNA.
With AJ, with guys that are there now in WWE who Booker T, he's still a WWE guy. Angle. Why do I keep fucking confusing Angle and Jarrett? Jarrett's
I don't know. One's bald and one's blonde, so I don't know how you can confuse the two.
It's because of the wife, Angle Jarrett. It's like one minute she's Karen Angle, next she's Karen Jarrett.
There was never a three-way between all three of them, so that's one thing I can guarantee that. But anyway, again, logistically, that's what Jarrett said he wanted Angle in TNA for. The purpose was he was going to be the flag bearer of TNA. And then Jarrett kind of took a step back. During that time, between 2006 and 2008-ish, for Jarrett, his wife was sick. And then his wife, his first wife died because of cancer.
That was heavy stuff, man.
That was very heavy stuff. And, of course, that's going to, eat.
They talked about a lot of that on TV. Like they brought that on TV too. I can't remember his wife's name. I feel horrible because I'm thinking I want to say it's Mandy, but Mandy was Nikita Koloff's wife that died the same way.
Well, just say Mrs. Jarrett because that matters.
Yeah, but I remember her name, and I feel terrible that I never met her, but I forget her name.
Google's your friend, so go ahead while I give out the thing. While Jarrett was trying to heal himself emotionally during the same time. Just like TW said, Kurt Angle and Karen Angle at the time, or Karen Jarrett, which she will become, they were in TNA together. And just like TW said, I brought my wife on TV, and now she's not my wife no more. They were having marital problems behind the scenes. But funny enough, Jill, okay. But funny enough, TW, Karen and Kurt Angle, they mesh great on TV. You couldn't even notice it. That even if they had they were bickering with each other. She didn't trust him. He didn't trust her. Whatever the case may be, it didn't affect TV. It didn't affect the main event Mafia story. So, and Karen Jarrett or Karen Angle, whatever you want to call her, TW, she was one of those characters on TV that you love to hate. She had that Vicky Guerrero vibe. She had all that. She knew how to get the
annoying.
She was very annoying. She got
the fingernails on the chalkboard voice.
Right. She had all that. So she knew her place on an Impact Wrestling show. But while that's happening, Karen and Jeff are consoling each other, first friendly, and then it turned intimate. So TW, what I heard back then is, like you said, how awkward it was for you to even to see Kurt. It was awkward for the boys to even know that this was going on. And because that you couldn't really do anything because he was the founder. He had some stroke. He had some power. The only one that could do something was Dixie. And Dixie kind of like put him on leave. You know what I mean? Like a leave of absence, or I don't want to say suspension. It's kind of it was kind of like that's a big term. But, she sent him home. But while that was happening, they were falling in love, and of course, all is done. But during that time between 2000, let's say 8-ish and 2010-ish, they fought a couple of times, and they fought only on the precipice, TW, about him being the founder and Kurt Angle being the guy that he thought that could carry the flag of TNA. That those matches were okay. I mean, they were banger-esque, like you said, on the Kurt Angle DVD. But lo and behold, by the time 2011 came, Reflection Nights, then it really got personal. Dirt sheets were talking about it. The boys did not like Jeff Jarrett for doing what he did because they thought he kind of undercut Kurt Angle, which I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know the logistics. I'm just going.
That's what I'm saying. It worked everybody, dude. I'm telling you, everybody bought it.
Right. So once we saw this happening on TV, where Karen and Jeff Jarrett were kissing and hugging each other, and then milking it on TV. So now TW, before we even talk about one of these matches, what say you about the television, exposure of this kind of love triangle?
That's the stuff that made me like, wow. Like it was just, I guess the only
that brought you in. That made you
respectful. It's just and that's what I mean by Kurt's. They never. Well, I guess sometimes they did it right in front of Kurt, but Kurt, like that last promo before that last match that we're going to talk about, he just looks almost like he's phoning it in. He looks numb, right? But I do want to say this. One cool thing about this, especially this feud, it's almost like Bum Corbin, right? This is when Kurt started growing out his scruffy beard and his 5 o'clock shadow horseshoe haircut. And I don't think it was necessarily because of this, but this is the time when he had that look where he looked like Randy Couture. It looked like he was trying to make wrestling look legit. Like he wasn't caring about what he looked like pretty boyish, right? Like that's why every dude shaves their head when they're going bald. They want to look the best they can, and they know the only thing worse than being bald is going bald. So you shave your head. He did it. He just let it grow in.
Or he was just, man, and this is again, maybe he's trying to sell this. Like you saying Randy Couture, I get that, but is he trying to sell like he's so depressed because of this?
Bum Corbin.
Or
that's what I'm
saying. But I'm just saying, I didn't get that vibe that he was trying to like be depressed.
Right.
But is he depressed? You know what I mean? I'm just trying to say like he didn't
let
give a fuck about
go.
that. Right. He just letting himself go, but he wasn't that presentation. Okay.
He was in good shape physically, but he was smaller, which is also the divorce diet. I've been on one. Where he looked like he was either off the gas or he really was struggling with the divorce. I mean, and I'll tell you from experience, and this could be why he's able to work on camera with her and with the stuff that they're doing in front of him. Most of it was not in front of him, you know what I mean? That he's still got to watch it to have a reaction. And so it's the kids, man. Like it's not seeing your kids every day. And I'm sure he already struggled with that because of being a wrestler on the road. And then in hindsight, for that reason, I don't, I always come around on stuff, but the schedule for Impact, especially now you 2 days a month you work for Impact, but unless they're doing special stuff, they're doing special stuff. You do some special stuff, but back then, I mean, WWE is still like a 300 days on the road. That gives you 65 days with your family, and if you only get them for half, that's only 32. So that's the stuff that's the stuff that's probably weighing on him that's got him down and out, if you will. Because otherwise, if it was losing her, I don't think he does this angle. No pun intended.
Right. Because let's look at it realistically before, again, we talk about the matches. Because, like I said, this is the most intriguing rivalry ever in the history of wrestling, in my humble opinion. Because again,
there's a second one.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's number one, but I'm just saying it's right there.
There's one just as it's probably worse because it did happen the way it was portrayed, which is Edge and Matt Hardy.
Yeah, but then they turned it business-like because it really didn't hamper. It didn't get really personal. It didn't really get that personal.
You don't know the story, dude.
No. I'm just saying it didn't progress personally like this one did because they never really went into it because I think because of WWE they forced both of them to hold back.
Right.
They said what they said. I get what you're saying.
They didn't peel
they didn't really peel that onion back to make it more personal. And
there was heat, though. There was
no. The first week, yeah, I give you that. The first week, and of course, ECW One Night Stand. I get you. We were there saying, you screwed Matt. I was there. I know that. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. But on this side, I just think that it was allowed to like get personal. It was allowed to grow into that personal. I think the WWE side, the Madden Edge side, it turned what was personal turned into like, oh, they're both phoning it in because it just they didn't want to deal with each other. That's just me. Right. That's just the way I look at it. But this one, they went into it. And then, of course, they got cute and funny with it. But I want to go back realistically because what you said is very prevalent, too, because how can Kurt and Karen work together knowing the logistics behind the scenes? We talk about child support. We talk about custody. We talk about visitation. Spousal support. Kurt Angle has got to see this woman at the soundstage in Florida,
bringing out his bank account
once a week, whatever the case is, either once a week or once every 2 weeks. You get
it was every 2 weeks back then, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And Karen could be a vindictive bitch, bringing the kids to the soundstage, and that's probably the only time that Kurt could see his kids. You know how some women are very vindictive, very vengeful, and use their children as bait, as a weapon, weaponizing this shit as a punching bag for the father. I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong here, TW. I'm just going by a man and woman, wife and ex-husband and all this bullshit. What say you, TW? Because that could bring out bum Corbin for the Kurt Angle look that you saw. There's more layers.
I think so. Not to toot my own horn, but I think that the state of Michigan should make divorcing couples hang out with me and my ex-wife to see that it's possible to not hate each other's guts and to put your children first and to do the right thing, right? We're almost at 10 years and we get along better these last 10 than we did for sure the last 5 married. So I would hope, and this is me assuming, I have no inside information, I would hope the fact that they did do this on TV, I'll bet it helped them. Like, it was probably therapeutic because I'll tell you, for me, my ex-wife went, instead of me looking at her as my ex-wife, she immediately went back to being my best friend's little sister. My best friend who passed away. I talked about him before on here, Shane. When we divorced, that's what she was to me. She was Shane's little sister again, which made it A, impossible for me to hate her, and B, she's also the mother of my 3 kids. So I don't know why they got divorced. It could be because I've seen Kurt Angle drink, just so you know. I've been there, seen it. It's impressive, but also scary. So who knows what their relationship ended over. But I would hope having to see each other helped heal whatever wound was there. And I think especially if she ends up with Jarrett fairly soon after their divorce, she's living that lifestyle still with him, so she really doesn't have a reason to take all Kurt's money. But that doesn't mean she didn't, and I would assume she didn't, because wrestling, Impact, WWE, AEW, they're families, man. At the end of the day, if they weren't getting along, someone would have to go, and I promise you, it would be Karen, not Kurt. You're not letting the guy bringing in the money go. You're letting his ex-wife, and then Jarrett, him, will just have to coexist without her being on TV. But the fact that she was there and she was there so long, I'd like to believe that it wasn't that he wasn't dealing with those things, because they probably made it amicable in order to make money.
Right. Again, I don't know the parameters, Reflection Eyes. I'm just, speculating.
Definitely potential for it.
But there's potential because, again, there's a lot of real life shit that happens behind the scenes, not even about wrestling, TW, just basic life. I know life in divorce. I know people who've been divorced. I know people who says that bitch or whatever, or what a deadbeat dad that person is. So again, I don't know the logistics.
There are far more deadbeat dads in women's eyes than there are actually deadbeat dads, by the way, because I know guys that are stellar fathers, and that's why I still call them deadbeat dads. And it's like, hold up, he's not the one posting a picture of cleavage every 5 minutes on the Facebook.
But you get how vindictive both sides can be, and whatever the case may be. So
there's a thin line between love and hate, my friend. And once it's no longer love, it's hate. Normal.
Right. So now, Reflection Eyes, again, we're not going into any particular order, but I want to leave the Lockdown cage match last. Now, sometimes Lockdown is the first pay-per-view of the year, or the second. because there was one Lockdown, there was one Genesis, and then one Slammiversary. So if chronology wise is Lockdown was the first match, technically.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to talk about, TW? You want to say the cage match last, or you want to do it the chronology as best as we can?
Let's get rid of the first one, the worst one first, which was that MMA nonsense. Which you need to tell me who the other guy was with him with Gunther. It was Gunther and
Gunner.
Not
Gunther.
Gunner.
All that matters is Gunner was the security for the Immortal faction.
That's what it was. The other guy and him were security.
Yeah.
Before they started wrestling, and the other guy quit.
Yeah, the other guy quit. But Gunner stayed. He had more
So this
potential.
is when Gunner first got on TV. He first started being there.
Yeah.
Because that other guy looked familiar, but he used to have longer hair, and then he cut it.
Mm-hmm.
And then here he looked familiar, but I still don't know what his name was.
I don't know.
They were head of security. They were the two security team.
They were two security goofs. So you're talking about the MMA one. That was TNA Genesis 2011 between Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle. So logistically, storyline-wise, Reflectionites, we know about Kurt Angle, Karen, and Jeff, the love triangle. But of course, there's supposed to be another backstory, TW. Jeff Jarrett is part of Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff's Immortal group. So there was not that many people to try to fight off Immortal, like, the old NWO angle where Sting fought the whole group. There was a problem here, TW, because, again, Vince Russo, and I'm not, again, sometimes he gets so much credit for the Attitude Era, but then sometimes he forgets that he does fuck up certain storylines of lack of inconsistencies. This was one of those inconsistencies.
Well, there wasn't a lack of inconsistencies. There was a lot.
I love Vince Russo, but sometimes he has to call. You got to call
some misses.
He has some misses. And the miss here, because was Kurt Angle trying to thwart off the Immortal group? Yes and no. He only focused on Jeff Jarrett, and that was it. So that was the problem, TW. So I'm just trying to give you like a backstory, because again, Immortal was running roughshod, but that was basically that was a non-factor between these two guys. It was because of Karen Angle / Karen Jarrett. So what say you, TW, about the inconsistencies of Vince Russo?
It was a sub feud. It would have been like the LWO before they became LWA, like Conan and somebody feuding with somebody on the side that wasn't big enough for the Hogans and the Nashes and the Halls.
No, if it was really supposed to be a subplot, the way that this feud could have been, and if you're going to use like maybe a group, I would use the Four Horsemen. I would use like Magnum TA versus Tully Blanchard. That was a good sub feud within what Magnum TA was
but they
trying
weren't
to do.
running a Four Horsemen taking over the company angle.
That was the problem. That's what I'm saying. There is a lack of
It's kind of like WrestleMania. I dare none of the Judgment Day to come out when Rhea won her belt. Like, why were they not out there? It was weird. It was almost like they left her out there to celebrate on her own. And so Jarrett fighting him, where's the rest of the crew to help him? He's got to have the security guards help him.
So there you go. That's an example of the inconsistencies here. So, but you wanted to talk about the worst match, which was the MMA match from TNA Genesis. Now, during the weeks, TW, I'm trying to give you the backstory here. Jeff Jarrett, I think he was fucking with Kurt Angle's mental. He wanted to prove that he was a great wrestler, a great amateur wrestler, but also because Kurt Angle had an affinity for MMA, and he was friends with Randy Couture because he was on one of those TNA shows. And there was a year that Kurt Angle did that MMA training angle with Samoa Joe. Didn't work out, but I'm just trying to give you the logistics. But Jeff Jarrett was trying to say he was way better MMA guy than Kurt Angle, because Kurt Angle was like really flaunting with the fact that I want to do this. Not only he wanted to go back to the Olympics, but he wanted to go to UFC. He was dead serious, even on weekly television. So what say ETW? Because again, Jeff Jarrett was funny. There was weeks where he was putting the ankle lock on midgets. He was putting ankle locks on jobbers and all that stuff. He did it in like 30 seconds. And now we get to the point of Genesis where he wants to show his MMA expertise against the Olympic legend Kurt Angle. What say you about this match Why did you say it was the worst match of the three that I said?
Because it was so confusing. There's no ending. It's by the way, I'm a huge Kurt Angle. I think he's one of the top 5 to ever do it. And I mean, like, skill. I don't know about popularity and stuff like that. But the dude just took to it. Anytime someone switches sports and comes in, he's the measuring stick. One of the worst gig jobs I've ever seen in my life. He's basically holding 2 different things in his hand. And I think he was opening the blade that he had taped to his finger, and then he's cutting himself. And it's so blatant that the camera catches it and then hurries up and turns off of the camera. And I'm like, Vince would have fired the cameraman immediitit for putting. Did you see that spot I'm talking about? He's literally holding 2 things in his hand on the mat and going like this to his head. It was worse.
Again, it was supposed to be Jeff Jarrett showing his, he was trying to do those punches.
Right.
At the end of the day, supposedly, I think Jeff Jarrett won this because Kurt Angle.
No, they said they threw it out and said no contest because the one guy squirted him in the eye, and then Jarrett kept punching him when it was.
Oh, the other guy that was with Gunner, it was Murphy. Gunner and Murphy. So it was supposed to be like I think it was called the Double J MMA match with Kurt Angle. So. It was supposed to be like a UFC fight, but it went longer than a UFC fight. It was
unsanctioned and exhibition.
Yeah, so...
And they stopped it because of the bleeding, because it was exhibition.
So that's why it was bad, because it was...
It was horrible. They both... So, okay, let's tell everybody wrestling's fake without telling everybody wrestling's fake. First, Angle had Jarrett in a leg lock, and he was saved by the bell. The very next thing... is Angle has him in a leg lock and he's saved by the bell. And then the last thing is, I think it was 3 rounds. The last thing was he got squirted in the eyes with something and then he was gigging. It was so predictable. That's why, again, I in fairness to everyone since, you can't do it again, to be fair. The beauty of the Iron Man match with Bret and Shawn is that nobody pinned nobody. Right? Common sense wisdom would tell you Bret would have got the first win. Shawn would have won 2 more to win the belt. And then Bret could always say, well, I pinned him first. Right?
Right.
If it was a normal match, I won. But they didn't do that. Conventional wisdom, not common wisdom. They went to overtime. And on top of it, Bret was bitching about it and then turned and took the super kick. And the only pin was in overtime. So Bret, who was turning heel, and I didn't realize it because it was done so well, bitched about, first of all, I wasn't ready. Second of all, it was overtime. I defended it for 60 minutes, blah, blah. It was perfect. Now, I can't remember. Recently, there was an Iron Man match. Was it MJF and somebody? Bryan?
Daniel Bryan.
And they both won 3 or 4 times. I don't even know how many there was. That, to me, makes it weaker, right? Because, A, you didn't need the hour because one of you guys beat already the guy. You beat him, whatever, and even though the other guy, and then MJF won in overtime, right?
Right.
So it
was like 4. It was like either 3-2 or 4-3. I forget the score.
I think it was 4-3, and the other one was in overtime, and he cheated, I think. But so they still did the overtime, they still did everything else. But the fact remains, and it was I think MJF won the first fall, and then Bryan came back and won 2 straight or whatever to tie it or whatever. But either way. That match, I hate that match. It was bad enough. I think Triple H and Michaels did a half-hour one, or someone did a half-hour one, Benoit and somebody on Raw. But the thing is, once Bret and Shawn made an absolute perfect one, get rid of it. Especially in today's business, nobody wants to watch a 60-minute match. MJF, your boy, just said he deleted it. He said he would rather shoot himself in the head than watch a wrestling show with 9 matches on it. So imagine one of them's an hour long. Nobody wants to see that anymore, right? It was lightning in a bottle. It's once in a lifetime. So this MMA match, and they use the same bell as wrestling. It's terrible.
So this MMA match is insulting your intelligence, knowing what MMA.
Insulting my intelligence. It looks like he would have won if the round was 4 minutes instead of 3 minutes, and then it looks like Jarrett would have beat him in the second round if it was 4 minutes instead of 3 minutes, and then it ends with a no contest because he's bleeding. It's hokey. I hope to God it wasn't the main event, which it probably was, unless the main event was Mr. Kennedy versus a drunken Jeff Hardy. But
Maybe, I don't know.
It's horrible. And you know what? You just said something that makes me feel a little bit better about the decision. They were probably trying to let Kurt scratch that itch and not leave, but it was horrible in every way, shape, or form. Yeah. And then it was like 5 guys coming out, and he's wearing a hat, and he's trying to look like he's doing the UFC. It's just it looked like wannabes. And in a time when, like I said, well, this is 2011. In 93, 94, 95, when UFC first started and there weren't weight classes and it was human cockfighting, as John McCain called it, you were not a fan of it if you were a wrestler, because you thought this is the shit that's going to get – wrestling's finally going to die because of real wrestling starting up. But then all they did was show you, and UFC's done it. UFC didn't get the steam that it has today until Ultimate Fighter, right? If you don't have story, people don't care about watching 2 people fight. They don't. They'll watch it.
You need a reason to be drawn into it. You need to be a reason to be drawn into it.
I became an MM fighter because of Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin, right? Yeah. That match made me an MMA fan. And then Clay Guida versus Roger Huerta III cemented it. When I saw them 2 fight, done. I was all in. And Randy Couture, but my favorite is Matt Hughes. I love all those dudes. Franklin, Rick Franklin, I think his name was, the teacher.
I'm not the professor of UFC, so I'm just whatever.
Well, anyways, what I'm saying is there was a time when I was invested in all these guys because they all spent time as coaches on Ultimate Fighter. And once you got to know them, I fucking loved Rampage Jackson because of, and I think it was him and Forrest Griffin were coaches, but I loved Rampage Jackson because I got to see his personality and watch him. Of course, not long after that, his career went to shit. But it was, everybody's got certain shelf life. But that stuff, the early UFC made people understand why wrestling is popular today. Because wrestling still has a stigma, Professor. I'm sure everyone you tell that you do a podcast for wrestling, they don't all say, "Oh, that's great." Some of them roll their eyes, or if you just tell them you watch wrestling at all, right? It is definitely a divided situation. Ben Shapiro, if I've heard him rip on wrestling once, I've heard him ripping on fucking 107 times. But the guy likes South Park, so pick a lane, buddy. Because if you don't like wrestling, don't come at me talking about being an adult with children and then tell me you watch South Park, because it's the same fucking demographic.
You know what's amazing? After this whole MMA match between Angle and Jarrett got you all this. You got you all this.
Because I'm trying to explain something to you. It all comes back. When you have an MMA match like this, and you have Jeff Jarrett come out with his hat on and his gloves and his entourage, and it looks like you're being serious, like you're coming out here. I get it in hindsight. It was mocking it, right? Because Angle didn't. Angle just came out like you come out for every match, right?
You're into the purity of the UFC, and you want to keep the purity as much as possible.
Not just that, but you're poking the bear. The people that are making fun of wrestling are the people that would rather watch UFC, right?
Okay. All right.
So when you do this, what do you say? The sincerest form of flattery is imitation, right? So you don't look like you're punking UFC. You look like you're imitating them. And that's what I didn't like about it. And then they do this match where the dude's in a leg lock and the bell rings because the time is up. That does not happen often in UFC, just for the record. Guys have been saved by the bell, but the last round, the last minute of almost every MMA round is 2 dudes afraid to make a mistake and lose in the last minute. It ain't people locking somebody in an ankle lock and the bell saves them.
I get you that. There's a lot of technicality flaws in this Double J Angle MMA match. I get you. I give you that. So
gimmick, not Angle. Gimmick match.
It was a gimmick match. So, but it was meant to enhance this feud. So this
and it stretched it out.
They stretched it out because, again, let me ask you this, because again, I have to go back to the weekly stuff before they get to a match. And then the second one we'll talk about is the steel cage match from Lockdown. All right.
Yeah.
But let's say 1 week, I remember that Kurt Angle and Karen and Jeff Jarrett, I remember Karen and Jeff Jarrett renewed their vows, and Kurt Angle, via the court documents, was forced to give Karen away. It was supposed to be funny and hokey and all this stuff, but it was meant to build this angle, TW. So from that standpoint, to get to a match, and I'm saying it got to the MMA match, I'm just using this as an example. It was just a feeder to get to a pay-per-view. Do you like it? Does it even dumb it down more?
That's not what happened. The third match, we're supposed to talk about that stuff. The third match was the stipulation that if Kurt won, he got custody of his kids. And
but I'm just saying. But I'm just saying, all those things are built to that point, to these matches.
It all makes it shaming Kurt Angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like you put
that was basically the point. That was basically the point of this feud.
Yeah, and you put a post up the other day about Finn Balor. I think it might have been the Staples or whatever, and one of the dudes who I see him on the page a lot, but not. He's not like an agitator like that JoJo guy.
Okay.
Vieira, maybe? No.
Vieira. Yeah.
It wasn't him. It started with an M. And he put, and he just had a job. He got all those staples, and he had the job to a part-timer, blah, 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 blah. And all I wrote was, I don't know if some of these guys understand the battle of good versus evil. Like, Finn had to lose. If he doesn't lose, then you're telling me you're okay with Edge having as a babyface to say, I quit. Because to save his wife, he got the concerto. Basically Edge took a beating the entire feud, lost 2 matches, and then won the Hell in the Cell match. And this guy's mad that Finn lost. Finn is bigger than ever because of this. And him losing made perfect sense. And now he has a built-in excuse because he had 15 staples put in his head there on the side of the ring. There's people complaining that they stopped it to do that. Oh yeah, just let him wrestle his Leatherface for fucking 20 more minutes. No, this impressed me, and the fact that they stalled and did what they did, I had no idea they were stapling him up. And then he gets up and wrestles more, and then better yet, he wrestles last night again against Rey Mysterio with them staples in his head or just taken out, whatever. So
and a calf injury too.
And he had a calf injury before the match even started 2 weeks earlier. So Kurt Angle is being set up. He has to win. If he doesn't win, it's like I said with Cody, which I'm tempering my expectations. I've pulled back. I like where they're going with it. I felt like him losing at WrestleMania, you should just release him the next day, right? Because it was going to be such a letdown. And I felt the Lex Luger shit coming. I talked about it on here. I talked about it with Travis. I talked about it with many people, but let it play out. It's a long build, not short build. Kurt Angle, he's getting humiliated every week with every little thing. The ultimate humiliation would be to walk your ex-wife down the aisle to marry her new white husband, your boss. That would be the ultimate thing. So for him to have to do it would have been more mortifying, right? Brian Pillman had to wear Marlena's dress, but he's the heel. That's why he had to wear it, right? So I like what they're doing. Again, doesn't sit easy.
The adversity, the storyline for adversity for the hero is common. That's what you're supposed to be drawn to. So that's one way to look at it. So with that being said, let's talk about the second match, maybe the best match out of the 3, give or take. Yeah. And we're gonna go to Lockdown. Again, this is before all the other stuff that you're talking about, but because I know Lockdown's more the earlier pay-per-view, so this could be the jumping point, the starting point of this feud. It's a cage match, and it turned into a blood feud because Jeff Jarrett bled in this match. Jeff Jarrett wins this match in Lockdown. So what say you about this? Because again, you pointed out the one spot where Kurt Angle is very crazy all the time. If there is a cage, Kurt Angle has this affinity to do a moonsault off the top of the cage. 9 times out of 10, he misses. I always know this. Every time I see him go,
because you'll kill a dude if you land on him from there, dude.
No, the way he does the most beautiful moonsault.
Yeah, no,
ever.
I know that. But the momentum of that arc, he's going higher than the cage.
Right.
Come down, you'll kill a guy landing on him, man. It's
the most beautiful moonsault that he always misses. I always know 9 out of 10 times he misses that. And I always know that spot, whether it was WWE or TNA. Every time a cage is up and he wants to do the moonsault, no matter what. But it was a good match for the 5,000 people at that arena for 2011 Lockdown purposes. So what say you about this match, which
very
is
physical,
which is basically the starter point of this feud.
Very, very, very stiff. But again, not potatoes. Stiff meaning it was the third match where he does Angle gets pushed off the top rope and then runs up and gives him that overhead superplex off the top. They do stuff that's like, that's another thing that lets me know these dudes trust each other, right? Because I'm not letting, especially if you're Jarrett and you're the bad guy in the situation by all practical purposes, you're taking bumps for this guy where all he has to do is move one way different than he normally does, and you're done, right? Like you're landing on your head, neck, whatever. And this is a beaut. And the finish, I think we can talk about the finish. We talked about the missed moonsault. We talked about the superplexes. We talked, Jarrett was running them back to back, throwing them into the cage. That's where Jarrett or Angle ended up bleeding.
Well, there's two things about this cage match, because again, we had a Gunner moment and we had a Karen Jarrett moment
and
here.
Big Papa Pump.
And a big Papa Pump moment. So,
that's actually the setup. The moonsault was Kurt was climbing over the top because, this was the match. Kurt won by tapping him out. This is my beef about this match. You ready? The first fall had to be by submission, but every time Kurt was in the damn figure 4 leg lock on Jarrett, he would rest and the referee would start counting Kurt like he was going to count him down for the pinfall, like when Ric Flair lost the match that way because he passed out while having the figure 4.
I'm not talking about Sam Laverty. I'm talking about lockdown.
No, the lockdown, the first one had to be the submission.
This wasn't a 3 falls match. This was a one.
Yes, it was, because the third fall was escaping the cage. You had to escape the cage to win. So the first fall, Jarrett lost by submission. The second fall, which again goes back to what I said about Brett and Sean. Once Jarrett tapped out, you knew he was winning, right? Unless it was a sweep. Then Jarrett rolled up Angle and pulled his tights and got the 3 count. And it was so dead in there. The fans didn't even know he counted to 3. Kurt's like, is that 3? And then Boras made the announcement, the next fall, the winner has to climb over the cage or through the door. And Kurt was climbing over, and Gunner stopped him with a chair. So he stood on that cage, and thank God their cage is that flat top, not the round bars like WWE, because he would have died. This dude's covered in sweat.
Well,
he almost fell
It's
once.
not round because it wasn't the 6 sides of steel. It was It was the basic force.
It was that one with the things to lift it up so they don't have to have the cage built. It was already waiting. So he climbs up on that flat part, and he's already been hanging on there all sweaty. Then he stands up there and says the prayer. That was the most real prayer you'll ever see in a wrestling ring, because he was like, please, God, let me survive this. And then did it. And like I said, Jarrett rolls over and tries to catch him anyway. And I think he was supposed to hit it, but he was nowhere near. He was in the corner. So, but the finish was Kurt got the key because Scott Steiner helped him out. When Karen Jarrett slams that door, the metal pipe in the middle of it hits Kurt right in the forehead. Like, because he had the ankle lock on, so he had no hands up. And all I thought was, if he was ever going to get mad thinking that bitch was trying to hurt him for real, it's right now. Like, he probably had no idea that bar was coming to his head. And they did it so well. I thought for sure, and I know you probably did too, when he had him in the ankle lock, first of all, Karen gave him the guitar, hit him with the guitar. Then he gets him in it again. I thought he was going to drag him and Karen into the ring. But I'm like, she's going to crawl over those steps. And instead, Jarrett went to the side so he'd be out of the way of the door. It was very beautifully done. He told her to slam the door. She did it. He hits the floor. He wins. Beautiful finish. Beautiful finish. But pretty sure Kurt's head was throbbing after that bar hit him right in the dome.
I'm pretty sure during that 2011 I keep calling it like Bum Corbin, but Bum Angle moments. That's the concussion, and that's the years he was taking a lot of painkillers. So, if he said to Karen, slam it as hard as you can, and I'll pay for it later, that was Painkiller City the night, after that pay-per-view. So that's just the way I looked at it from that.
It fucking got him, man. It was almost as bad as Finn Balor and that ladder. That ladder was sick. Like, ouch.
Now, before we go to the third match, which is the Slammiversary match, which obviously after, months of this feud.
He was gone for a while.
Yeah.
That's when he came back thinner and had the fuzz.
Right. But the cage match, and you just said it very prevalent because, again, the cage is the perfect opportunity to kind of like be stiff. The cage is the perfect opportunity to maybe put Jarrett to that to the fence a little bit,
right?
And kind of like mush him more,
just to give receipts.
Hand out the receipts. So, what say you about the professionalism of Kurt Angle holding back? Or did he slip up in your humble opinion? Maybe here or there.
Listen to me, man. If anyone ever doubts that dude's professionalism, watch those 3 matches, because he had every opportunity in the world to just lay Jarrett out and have the excuse that New Jack had. Oh man, it was just a wrestling match. I didn't know he was going to miss the table. You know, it's a built-in excuse, man. And that cage is, come on, it's a weapon. For real, you know, sadly, in my 15 years of wrestling, it's actually 30, but the last 10 have been sporadic. But the 15 years I wrestled, I never wrestled in a steel cage match. I'm okay with it.
No, you're not. You want a Hell in a Cell moment. That's what you want.
I don't know about all that. I don't want to die in a wrestling ring. So maybe when I was 20, not 49.
No, well, maybe not Hell in a Cell. I think you'd probably be perfect for the Elimination Chamber.
Ultimate X. Oh, the Elimination Chamber would be badass. As long as it's not with...
No, you want to be the last person to come in, and you just want to watch the match. You're like, I know.
I don't want to be the guy in the pod that the other 2 guys bust through the pod. And remember, was it Bailey? And then she went over and got in a different pod? That was hilarious.
Okay, and with that being said, we will talk about one more match in this greatest feuds from Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett from 2011, and we're going to talk about the Slammiversary match between these 2 TW. So again, this one went on for the longest, if I remember on the YouTube. I think it went on for almost 30 minutes. So they gave them time in this match. You know, the promo actually added a couple of minutes to it.
This one's actually the second shortest. The MMA, thank God, was only 13 minutes. This one was about 24, and the first 3 or 4 minutes was interviewing Jarrett's wife.
Right. So, you know, they wanted to add that backstory with Karen Jarrett. So what's say about Karen Jarrett's interview and promo to build up this Slammiversary?
You said it best, man. She's got that Vicky Guerrero vibe, right? Where you everything she's saying, if it comes out with a Miss Elizabeth tone, you feel bad for her. But the way she says, you're like, bitch, it didn't work because you're still running your mouth. Because the whole big deal was, I didn't fall down the stairs. I was pushed. And Kurt was like, I didn't do it. Did they ever tell you who did it? Or was she faking it the whole time?
She was faking it. She was being the heelish Vicky Guerrero type.
But it was hilarious because Kurt's like, I didn't do it. It's the mother of my children. You know, he's like, fuck you. And so I think he got suspended, right? They tried to make it out, and that's why he was gone.
I think that it was storyline suspension or something like that.
And then his promo was, it's Bum Corbin, dude. He's like, he's just so sad looking. He's like, I don't know what shape I'm in. I've been out for a few months. He goes, I don't know. But Jarrett, if you want to know what kind of shape I'm in, ask your wife. And I was like, ouch. Like he gets to take the shoe on the other foot. That was his, she was mine before she was yours. Woo! That's what that was.
There was a lot of zingers even before match or, you know, with the weeks of building.
But nothing disrespectful, nothing classless. It was, that's what.
Well, you know, I think for them, like you said, they're both professional enough to know probably what is going to be said to each other.
Right.
But for
that's what I mean. He wasn't
let me just say this.
Let me just whore.
But let me just say this. For the fan, you're hearing this, you're already in your head like, oh, she's a slut, she's a whore, and all this stuff. You're building this more bigger than probably what it's supposed to be. That's what I wanted to get out of that.
Yeah.
So what say you, TW, about this whole match, the Slammiversary match, and all the variables in between?
I love the stipulation. The stipulation is great, and they kept saying these are the weirdest stipulations ever, and it's sad at the same time. Like Kurt's getting either pure euphoria, or he's getting pure humiliation, one or the other. And they show him with his little son in a suit walking in there and just setting you up for him to lose and have to walk her down the aisle, which if they did that, they would come up with a happy ending where he gives him the angle slam through the cake or something. It would have been redemption at the end. It wouldn't have been just total humiliation. But I like that Kurt won. He won with the ankle lock. They did this match. I like. Instead of having an MMA match, they both tried doing MMA holds in a regular match, which made way more sense because that's the other thing. They're doing these MMA matches, yet they're still running ropes. It's like, no, motherfucker, they don't run. There are no ropes to run in UFC. It's fence. So they just had a wrestling match, and guys caught each other in holds. Kurt did some beautiful suplexes to Jarrett. Jarrett took some beautiful bumps. And he didn't tap him in the ankle lock. He tapped him in a reverse figure 4, where Jarrett was on his stomach, and then Angle was on his back with the figure 4, which is kind of cool because I've never seen that since. Like basically putting the figure 4 on somebody while they're on their stomach, and basically reverse.
It's supposed to show the technical prowess of Kurt Angle with
inventiveness, ingenuity,
inventiveness. Because everything, he did, the ankle lock 1,000 different ways, and that was one of those the greatest spots. And it's not about this match; it's just his career. He always found a way to do the ankle lock in many ways. The man of like 1,000 ways to do an ankle lock.
Yeah, like the stunner or the super kick.
Yeah, so he's a very technically sound wrestler. We already know this, Reflection Nice. And with that being said, there's nothing really left to say except this. Because you talked about Matt Hardy and Edge. I get you with that part. God damn, that's scary right there. That is so fucking scary. You just had a head just pop up for no fucking reason. And I'm like, what the hell? See, for the audio Reflection Nice, they won't get this. But the video is just so apropos. And now it looks smaller. And like, God damn, that was 3D. Your camera makes it look 3D. It made it bigger. Like you had a.
He's looking at you like the Brady Bunch.
Yes, he is.
There's a story about a man named Brady.
But like I said, between the Matt Hardy and Edge one and this one, they got to play the personal card here more and more. They used the kids, they used alimony, they used child support, they used the like you said, even the she was mine before she was yours, kind of like it wasn't the line, but you know where you're going with this. They got personal. And it dragged on for, let's say, 6 to 8 months.
And neither one of them hurt each other.
And neither one of them hurt each other. Like the Matt Hardy and Edge, it started off fire, but then it ended with a dud. Because then it turned into just a regular match. That's why.
So just so you know, on this, I do have inside information. The one night I worked for WWE, I was probably one of 3 people that spoke to Edge and Lita that night. Nobody talked to them. That's how real that shit was.
Right.
He just went and sat in the audience before the building opened. Him and Lita just sat. Every time I saw them, they were together. Nobody talked to him. And I did because, I hadn't seen the guy in a couple of years, so I was happy to see him. So, and me and him hung out, but nobody else talked to him. It was kind of sad, right? But I'm going to defend it. I personally believe we don't get to pick who we fall in love with. I think Cupid shoots arrows and no, not her. And then you fight it. Remember we were kids, like, not that nappy bitch. And then you're like, next thing you know, you're kissing her, right? So you're just happy about it. So you know the story, right?
The head downstairs actually overtakes the head upstairs.
Right. Those are the ones where you're humping dump. I'm talking about the ones where you can't get them out of your mind. So how it started was Edge, Lita, and Matt traveled together.
Of course,
and then Edge broke his neck. And then when Edge came back from his broken neck, Lita broke her neck. And then when Lita came back from the broken neck, Matt ruptured his Achilles. And then Edge said to him, hey, man, is it cool if we still travel together? And they did because they always did. He's like, absolutely. And they bonded over those neck surgeries. Next, you know, wah, wah, boom, wow, wow.
Yeah. The Pornhub song.
It wasn't plotted. It was just life happened, and they're not together now. So how'd you like to be her? I bet Matt and Edge are like high-fiving each other every time they see each other. What's up, Wiener cousin? They don't care, and she's the one getting jumped by Trish Stratus.
Well, again,
it sucks. I'm not
it very much
it's the
sucks.
Proper way to go about starting a new relationship.
But the thing that you said there is apropos is because how it affects the boys and the girls backstage. Because again,
people were hot at him, man.
You are breaking some rules behind the scenes.
I don't know, because I got other stories about Tammy.
Well, I know about Tammy. I know those stories.
Your boy Candido would be in the shower and she'd be on her knees with someone else in the locker room in front of everyone else.
Yeah, and then Chris Candido was the first simp. And
then he died such a shitty way, like such a like preventable way. Like Derek Thomas died the same way. Football player, blood clot.
In closing, TW, because like I said, you had like common knowledge or firsthand knowledge with Matt and not Matt, Edge and Lita. Right. What say you about about the boys and the girls of TNA? Again, we don't know everything. Maybe like some people love Kurt, some people love Jeff. You have that bond with that person or the loyalty to that person. So let's say how difficult would it be for the boys and the girls behind the scenes? Or
the difference here is, and this amps the difficulty up. Mm-hmm. They can't shun Jeff Jarrett if they think he's the heel, right? Because he's their boss. Mm-hmm. And Kurt's one of the boys, so they're not going to shun him. Mm-hmm. And like I said, from people I do know who were kind of there, it was awkward. And I'm telling you, everybody bought it that's how it went down, right? Like, right. They were married, and then Jeff just took her. But that ain't how I've since heard later on. No, they were already going through the beginning of a divorce, and then just again, like Edge and Lita traveling the road together. These two are bonding. I think Karen lost somebody around that same time too. Like, so it wasn't just she's consoling him because he's losing her wife, and he's consoling her because she's getting divorced. It was relative to losing somebody, like to death. I think. Okay. I'm not positive. Yeah. And then one thing led to another, and hey, man, here's the beauty of it all. They're still together now. So that's why.
And Kurt's happy with his wife. Yeah. He's a Hall of Famer and all that stuff. Yeah. So he,
and one of the biggest scandals like this in music is Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood, right? They're both married. Garth Brooks' love for his wife, Sandy, was like legendary. Like when this dude cheated on her with Trisha Yearwood, he probably lost half his fan base, who quickly came right back, right? And so when you see interviews where him and Sandy are still friends, when she got cancer after the divorce and he paid for everything I'm going to cry. They're friends, and she's friends with Trisha because they were friends before. Trisha Yearwood was young, up and coming. Vince McMahon her. He groomed her. And so she was married to a guy in a band called the Mavericks. This guy, Raul. She was married to him, and they cheated on them. But they're still together now, and it's a sin. Don't get me wrong. It's a fucking couple commandments being broken, right? Adultery and coveting thy neighbor's wife. But at the end of the day, when they're still together 15, 20 years later, can you kind of blame them? Like, it's out of their control if you understand what I'm saying. Like, Cupid got them. I hope they're happy. Most people that do this, they fucking hate each other. And within a year or two, they both think the other one's cheating on them because that's how they got together. And the old saying, don't be surprised if it ends the way it started. So, but like I said, these Jarrett and Karen are still together now. I would hope that Kurt and him and her, like at graduations and weddings and stuff, they co-mingle and all that. And you know what? Life's too short. You know, if you found someone else, then what reason is there left to hate somebody? Like if you're lonely and you're miserable, you can blame it on the person that made you alone, right? But after so long, you got to let it go, man. God closes doors that we can't sometimes close ourselves, and then we open new ones. But I think this was well done. This was well done. And I love Jarrett, man. I know I take shots at him, but I love that dude. And I don't know that there's that ring caping, whatever the hell, like that. This guy is not afraid to take chances. And this was one of them because this, like you said with Edge and Matt, it could have went off the tracks and just been a dud, but it wasn't. And it's something that we're talking about now, 12 years later, not just because of the angle, but because they had good matches. They had a good rivalry. And so we're talking about them on rivalry. So I like it. I approve. I give it 2 thumbs up. And like I said, they worked everybody. They had everybody thinking it was way different than it was.
Absolutely. True words were never spoken by TW. And we close on this greatest rivalries edition here at the PWR podcast at Hami Media Group at podbeam.com. So, you know what, TW? I don't know what we're going to do next week. We might go episodic.
I'm all done with hockey games.
You all done with hockey games. Good for you. We might go episodic. We might do movies. We might do spotlights. Who knows? Maybe a what if. I'll sprinkle something. I might think of something. Maybe, or just maybe, We might do the movie thing. We'll finally.
It's time for a movie. I think it's time for a movie.
Well,
doesn't have to be the sheep herders if you can't find that. But
again, I'll keep you on your toes, Reflection Nights, and I'll keep TW on his toes. Again, we don't know what we're gonna do next week, but again, we'll see what we're gonna do here. So TW, give out those socials so we can get out of here.
You got it. Alrighty. The Pro Wrestling, it's wrestling, but we call it wrestling here.
Mm-hmm.
The Pro Wrestling Coalition Network is at PWC Network at podbean.com. Hameen Media Group at podbean.com, and also Hameen Media Group at channelattitude.com. Our Twitter is at PW Reflection, at Big Ray Hernandez, everywhere. He swears he's not on Grindr, but I watched him talk about Billy Ray Valentine being on Grindr. So it's good for the goose, it's good for the Gonda. And so Big Ray Hernandez,
he hacked Billy Ray's Grindr, so this way he just
so it wouldn't look like he's doing it, but he's doing it. Yeah. So Billy Ray, Big Ray, same thing. So at Big Ray Hernandez across the board, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Grindr, Ashley Madison, all of it. He's on it as Big Ray Hernandez. Mine are at Tommy Wonder 19 on Instagram and political Twitter. At the Tommy Wonder is TikTok and wrestling Twitter, and Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder is Facebook. Snapchat is #Wonder, and I said TikTok, right? Yeah, the Tommy Wonder. And then Big Vito and Noel, you can find them at bigvitobrand.wixsite.com. That's WIXSITE. Patreon.com/the Big Vito Brand. And then you can watch the early release of Reflection video at twitch.tv/the Big Vito Brand. And you can see Kurt Angle's little head. And you can see him looking up at the professor like the Brady Bunch.
And scaring the shit out of me because I'm like, God damn it, that just scared the shit out of me. But anyway, no Dum Dum Duo, no eating crap anymore.
Man, we're actually talking about stuff now. We got some ideas. We might be moving it to TikTok. That might be
there you go. The wheels are turning for Dum Dum Duo idiots. So, but you can find me on my Twitter at PWSOPROF. That's PWSOPROF. Follow my brothers in arms, Billy Ray Valentine, Mr. Obi-Wan. You know me on the Twitter, and of course, prayers to 8-Track Brown, the dirtiest of the city. He lost a very dear member of his family this past week. He lost his uncle. So my prayers to him and his family. Stay strong, my brother. You can, send a shout out to him. Send your love and prayers to him at 8TRAC Brown on his Twitter. And with that being said, again, I don't know what we're gonna do next week, but I'll keep you on your toes. Reflection Nights, I'll keep you on your toes. I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful Dum Dum Duo Idiot. So, Tommy Wonder, get that head up again. Where's the head? Not your head, the other. See, now I'm ready for the head. And Kurt Angle saying good night, and we'll see you next time here at the PWR Podcast at the Hameen Media Group at podbean.com.
Go ask your wife.
Don't ask my wife what?
That's what Kurt Angle said to Jarrett.
Oh, that's cool.